Look, Puck, I think this is a really horrible idea. Wow, is this is the great Santana Lopez scared? This I'm reading in my head. I'm not gonna read out loud.
Candy, read out loud. Read
Oh,
out
there's a
loud,
No,
next
please.
door.
no,
Please.
no,
Please,
no.
Candy, please read out loud.
Wait, what? It just doesn't lead anywhere.
Candy's reading the story out loud. Candy, read.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not.
Proceed. Why
Yes,
No.
you
not?
are.
Why
Don't be a
not?
jabroni. Alex, throw them over. Throw them over, Alex.
Why won't you read out loud, bro?
Yeah, jabroni.
No.
You jabroni rice-a-roni.
Dude, read it out loud, please.
His finger closed the back diving suit over my skin. I trembled. It was cold and this was nerve-wracking and I could die any second. And Stan, you're fine? You have 2 hours. Just explore. When you go down about 50 feet, there's some coral and shit. Check it out, though. Just don't touch it. Don't touch it. Got it. I
Why are
blundered.
they shooting us,
How
right?
the...
Wait, no,
What the heck?
Keep
Trail, I'm
reading.
kicking you. Okay, I'm kicking you so we don't have to hear your game. All right,
Okay.
Candy, proceed.
Oh, yeah.
Keep reading.
I am reading.
Out loud.
Damn it. How the
Read
fuck
out
did you
loud.
get this job? Pigman. When
No,
all
Chad, we don't want to
of
hear
you
your
were
game.
Thinking about your future after graduation, I was.
We're not.
What?
Okay, remove Chad. Go.
Out loud, please.
Candy.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Yes, read it out loud.
Yes. Yes. You won't laugh.
He touched up security. He touched up securing my equipment, probably ensuring that I drowned out here. And I was all.
Who's
I gave him
messaging us?
I think it's Cheo. Here, let me add him to the call and see if he.
No, go, he says.
Why is he not on the call?
I'm not letting you go through life without expecting this.
Okay, bye.
I'll be right behind
Guys,
you.
shut up. Please read it.
Okay.
With that promise, I took a step off the boat. To miles upon miles of blue, the ocean was Princeton. I could see a school of fish swimming a few feet to my left. I kicked my feet, easily propelling over to them. They scattered. I saw an explosion of bubbles up to my right and realized Puck had joined me. He pointed to his watch
What's
before.
happening?
Just listen to it. Just listen to it. Just listen to it. Candy, go.
Okay. Before monitoring me to follow him, he led me down into a huge rock formation. I realized we were going closer to the cliff. Something brushed my arm, and a scream got caught in my throat. I looked and saw Puck beside me, his eyes crinkling at the edges. That stupid ass douchebag. I went to punch him, my arm moving in slow motion. He rolled his eyes and waved me to follow him again. I guess we're playing follow the leader. He slowed down, running his hand over a clump of seagrass growing out of the rock. I saw a dark shape next to him. It was the opening to a cave, and he was pointing into it. He really didn't expect me to go in there, did he? I shook my head furiously. No fucking way.
Keep reading out
There
loud.
was no way in hell I would go in there. Not if he baited me with a naked Olivia Wilde. No way. He pointed again, more urgently. I stared at him before he swam over and grabbed my hand, pulled me into the darkness. He was fucking feeding me to the sharks. This was the thanks I get for buying a ridiculously expensive plane ticket to visit his ass in his new home. Great fucking friend.
Keep reading.
Oh my
God damn it.
Come on, keep going.
Hold on. I shot him a glare as he turned out a flashlight, attaching the core trap spawning. I don't care to his head. We swam farther into the darkness. Before long, Puck began to floating up. I trailed behind him anxiously as to what I'd meet. As I burst out of the water, I took a gasp of breath. almost like I've been holding my breath. My mouthpiece fell limp against my chest. Welcome to the Cave of Wonders. I looked wildly at Puck. How did you find this place? I went exploring once. He shrugged before pulling himself onto the platform. I followed him and let him unzip my gear. I'm going to
Ah.
off. Let's go explore.
Shh.
The cave was bright, surprisingly bright, light flittering in from the ceiling. I looked up to see cracks and holes. Is this shit going to fall down on us? I asked, gesturing up. Nah, well, I don't know. Seems pretty sturdy to me. We kicked off our flippers, dragged the equipment away from the edge before lifting it into our arms. It was more like swimming with jaws, past exploring secret caves that one of my best friends found. Count me in. My feet slapped the wet rock, creating echoes up into the ceiling of the cave. As
What are
we
you guys
walked,
talking about?
Shut up, Owen!
Shh. Candy's reading something. Shh. Be quiet.
alright, final, alright. As we walked further, more life glittered in. Finally, after walking about 10 minutes, we came to a respite, a lake of water. Before anything happens, I need to warn you. This is ridiculous and you won't believe me. I stared at him. The fuck was he talking about? I don't understand.
Keep
You
reading.
will. Many of them have been asking about
Who's
you.
that?
Said, bending over
What are you
and
doing?
slapping.
Oh, shut up.
Then
Owen, shut up. Okay. Keep going. Keep
What is
going.
a fan fiction?
did people did people live in here or something? That seemed impossible. Someone couldn't live in here. A gasp escaped my mouth as a head of brown hair emerged from the water,
Owen,
quickly
turn down.
followed by a
Who's
livid
echoing?
Owen, turn down
eye.
your speakers.
Just kick
Bro,
Owen. He's
mute your
being a...
mic. Mute your mic. No, alright, I'll mute it.
Okay. Go, Candy. Go.
Her smile radiated as she rested her arm on the edge of the rock. Two heads of blonde soon joined. I felt Puck looking at me curiously, waiting for a reaction. Honestly, I don't know how to react. Why were these women swimming in here naked? I was all dipping, but
Mute your
seriously.
mic, man.
Keep reading. Can't lose character, Kennedy.
Keep
Alright.
going.
Can't
San
break character.
Puck said slowly. Oh my gosh, this is Santana, one of the blondes asked, her voice chiming like bells. They could have been identical twins, the two blondes. All except the one that spoke had shockingly blue eyes, and the other had warm hazel iris. I've been a while. It's been a while, Puck. The brunette said, pulling herself out of the water. Her body dragged across the rock, the muscle in her stomach contracting at it came in contracting with this cool stone. As she continued to pull herself out, everything around me stopped. I lost my breath. Then there was a pulsing in my ear. I watched as instead of a bare leg, I saw a large tail fin like a dolphin. It was green, the color of seaweed. I shook my head slightly. I could feel all their eyes on me, waiting for a reaction. My mouth open and shut, watching as the blue-eyed blonde and bobbed up and down in the water. This is fucking unreal. I blurted out. Santana.
This is
Puck's
terrible.
Shh. Shh. Keep going, Candy. Candy, keep going.
Santana. Puck spoke quietly as the brunette frowned. I turned on him quickly. Are you fucking with me right now? No, see, I figured I'd show you rather than tell you. You would have laughed if I told you. It. You would have laughed if I was just like, oh hey, by the way, I have a friend. I've been friends with some mermaids. He shook his head. Come on now. My head swam. What the fuck was this? Where the fuck did I end? When the fuck I entered a Disney movie? I spat at them. Is this the Ariel thing that Hazel Brown asked? Yeah, Quinn. That's that movie I told you about. The brunette scuffled. Please. What sand mermaid would trade her voice for a man? What we have beautiful voices. Oh God, breathed. They sing? Do you want to hear? The blue-eyed beauty asked, her face growing with a grin. Her hand ran through her hair. It was then that I just noticed how long their hair was. It came down past their breast. The brunette hair was curling slightly, having been out of the water for a few minutes. Quinn and the other blondes had their hair fanned around them, splaying across the water. She doesn't deserve to hear. Rachel stopped it. Rachel, stop it. She just in shock or something. Puck muttered, glancing at me. I felt Rachel's glare hit me and felt. Oh my god. No.
Go!
Oh,
Go!
I know. I know. Okay. And felt instantly exposed. I gulped before turning on my HBIC mode. I wouldn't want to hear it anyway, I sneered. The unnamed blonde squeaked and turned my head towards her, watching her face crumple before she flipped and propelled herself under the water. Brittany, Quinn yelled, diving under for a moment before resurfing. She must have gone home, she muttered, shaking her head. Rachel hissed in my direction before I spoke. I'm sorry, what's home? It's where they live, obviously. Puck said sarcastically before continuing. A long time ago, a ship crashed in there. There, this huge rock protruded from the water, but we guessed that when the ship was cursed, it wasn't as noticeable. They all live in the ship now since there's a huge ass hole and stuff. There's more? Of course. We're mermaids. We mermaids live for centuries, and since we can reproduce, there's always little guppies swimming around. Rachel said matter of factly, I had a feeling this bitch hated me. So there's merman? I hated I hadn't realized there was such a thing. Well, hell, I didn't realize there was mermaids either. No, just mermaids. We're lesbian.
Keep reading.
You
Keep
cannot break
reading.
character.
Keep going.
You can't break
Kennedy.
character,
Kennedy,
Kennedy.
keep going.
We're lesbians.
Kennedy.
Smiled. What?
Don't
Shh,
talk to me. You
Chris,
guys
Chris,
keep
just keep
going.
going. Just keep going. Just keep going.
Quinn smiled, brushing her hair against Rachel's back. The brunette hummed in contentment, closing her eyes. A silence engulfed up as I fought to find words. A lesbian mermaid calling me? What the fuck are the odds of that? I know I was surprised too. Just ser- I seriously wanted to tap that, but just imagine when I realized I couldn't. Puck grinned cheekily. I shook my head. Couldn't? Explain. Our our fins transform into legs when it's time to reproduce. It happens every month. We take our love very seriously. When we find a partner, we're with we're with them for life. Gwen explained. Well, how long have you guys been together? 22 years, Rachel said. And the half naked thing? I asked, eyeing Quinn up. Rachel growled predatorily. My eyes shot up to hers. Why cover something so beautiful? She muttered, eyeing my eyeing me with disdain. True, I breathed. I'm going to find Brittany, Quinn said, touching Rachel's hand. No, let me go. I need to apologize, I muttered, lifting up the oxygen tank. Quinn watched me, approval to her eye as Puck adjusted my equipment. I took a deep breath and shifted my eyes between all of them. I wasn't sure why I was doing this. I guess I felt bad, but mainly those beautiful blue orbs had stunned me. It wasn't that I wanted to apologize. I felt compelled to. Just swim in that direction before diving down. You have to go. Wait a minute. You have to go through a small tunnel, but you'll see it. You can't really miss it. Quinn smiled. I
When do
smiled
they
back.
start
Shut up.
Chris,
Shut up, Chris.
stop.
Shut up.
Chris, stop.
what?
Stop.
Don't
We're not
just
at
don't. We're
that
not
part
talking
yet.
about. It. Shh. Just mute your mic. Don't interrupt
Oh
him.
my god. I smiled back. At least Quinn was nice. I would have totally tried to get with her. Great. I swear, if I find out you're trying anything, you will regret it. Rachel growled. Aye, aye, Captain, I smirked. She eyed me before moving out of the way. I stepped off the edge after getting my mouthpiece in place. I emerged with a burst of bubbles. Be careful, Puck warned, shooting me a look I knew too well. The can you not die look. I nodded and waved before kicking. I took It took only minutes to find the place. Light glittered through the water. I looked up, slightly staring, startled to see the sun, blurring and white as it hit the water. I kicked slowly, getting to in getting to the huge boat in front of me. It was an honest to God pirate ship, wooden board, wooden boards, a mermaid statue attached to the front. There was a huge hole in the side. Movement caught my eye, and I glanced up to see legs disappearing up into the surface. My breath caught for a second, watching the milky skin before I swam to where they went. As I half dragged, half pushed myself out of the water, I hear a hiss to my left. I took off my equipment, turning to Brittany. What do you want? She muttered, her eyes closed against the bright sun. My cheek blushed furiously as I took to her naked form. Her legs were long, like insanely long and smooth, and my eyes continued to trail my
Cheap
abdomen.
cancer.
My abdomen clutched at the sight of her center. I want to apologize, I finally croaked out. She lifted her head, squinted at me. I smiled attentively. Slight sighing, she sat up, pressed her knee together, and rested her chin on them. Well, she spoke. Look at me. Go ahead. I paused, not expecting her attitude. I'm sorry I made it seem like I didn't want to hear you singing. I would actually be honored if you sang to me. I heard the sound of feet slapping against the rock before a body hit mine, arms wrapping around my neck, breath hitting my ear. That went well. I wrapped I wrapped my arms around her waist, stand on my toes to tuck my chin over her shoulder. Her body her body pressed into mine, forming the mesh perfectly to fit mine. I closed my eyes. It was the best hug I've ever received. My thumbs traced the curve of her spine. With a slight I pulled back. I caught the frown on her face before she maxed it quickly. I cleared my throat. So, time of the month, huh? I asked, gesturing to her legs. Her laugh ran out. Yeah, I guess you can call it that. I'm guessing you found your soulmate or whatever? My heart accelerated for some reason unknown to me when she shook her head. No, we form legs no matter what. I haven't been lucky enough to really connect with someone yet. I enjoy hearing her talk. It was like a wave of comfort washing over me. I pulled her down and slipped off my wetsuit, lying back on the sand. Explain all the explain all that
Chris,
to
just let him go.
me. Sure, it's a long story. I nodded and she continued, smiling slightly. I'll explain the whole love at first sight thing, then move on to the baby making. Anyway, love at first sight has a tremendous strong truth to it for us. Quinn and Rachel, for example, grew up together and knew for the moment they met they were soulmates. It wasn't until a couple of years ago they began the romantic part. Her grin spread across her face. Quinn is quite the romantic. Sure, know how to sweep Rachel off her feet. I'm sorry, did I hear that correctly? That cold, that cold-hearted bitch actually gets swept up her feet. Brittany must have noticed the expression on my face. Actually, Rachel's actually a really nice girl. She just doesn't like strangers. But I begged Puck to bring you here when you visited. Why? He made you seem really cool and funny and pretty. Do I look? Do I live up to expectations? More so, actually. My body warmed as I felt my cheek blush. And Santana Lopez never blushed, so I had no fucking clue what this girl was doing to me. So why haven't you found your soulmate? I asked. She shrugged and looked off to her horizon. I don't know, she said solemnly. Do you want to find someone? I noticed the look on her face. It struck me that probably. What? What?
Let's
What?
keep reading. Keep reading.
Keep going, keep going, keep going.
Said definitely. All right. I gotta find where I left off. Okay. It struck me that probably many other members of her huge family have found love while she hasn't. Of course, I felt like it's hopeless at the point. I smiled slightly. We found love in a hopeless place, I sang. She sat up and
Is
learned
that where that
and leaned.
song comes from?
We found love in a hopeless.
Okay, shh, copyright, copyright.
You
She sat up and leaned over me, eyes wide. What was that? A song. No, no, no. You can sing. I scuffled. I wouldn't consider it singing. No, that was really good. You have a beautiful voice. I waved my hand dismissively. Explain the baby making. Okay. Well, we obviously have to wait until that time of the month. And it doesn't happen to all of us at the same time. I started today. Quinn might start tomorrow. It normally lasts a few days, give or take. Wouldn't that be a great menstrual
Pastor's
cycle?
here.
Grow some legs, walk around a little instead of bleeding profusely and feel like you're getting stabbed repeatedly in the stomach. We can only have one child. Quinn and Rachel have had their first daughter a year ago. She's a tiny, tiny thing. Her name, they named her Harmony. Rachel gave birth to her, so they can't have any more children. But then Quinn can have a child. It limits to grow our species. I nodded though. But how do you guys even conceive? She blushed to to the tips of her ears. It was adorable. Puck tried to explain how humans have babies and it was confusing and stuff. And the only thing I got out of it was that sperm triggered the pregnancy. For us, it's what? Saliva?
Chris, just mute your mic. Just
Why?
go.
Oh my.
Why are you picking on me?
Because your mic's not muted.
It's saliva? What?
Neither is my
Alright.
ghost.
I blinked.
Now it is.
Excuse. Saliva impregnates us. How the Oh, I see. My mouth clammed shut quietly as my brain tried to stop reeling from this new revelation. But wait, does that mean Rachel and Quinn never had sex before Quinn went down with Rachel? Oh no, they've had sex, believe me. But that's what but that's what fingers are for. Are you kidding me? Guys,
Finger sex.
Keep
guys,
going. Keep going.
That was
I
fingers
can't
for.
Who's talking? Kenny, they have finger sex. Dumb.
that's what
Shh, just keep going, Kennedy. Kennedy, just keep going.
But that's what fingers are for, she grinned, winking her own finger in my face. I grabbed her hand, seizing the moment. I watched as the smile on her face slowly vanished. A curious look replaced it. She was studying me. She was studying me, waiting for a move. Can you find a soulmate in a human? I muttered, watching her lips. She ran her tongue over them, causing my heartbeat to accelerate at an impossible speed. Maybe it's never been done. I nodded slowly, not sure what to say. This girl, mermaid, I guess, did something to me. I felt comfortable around her, which is strange for me since I have a few friends. I'm very reserved around people, but I guess she broke me out of that. I felt like I was with an old friend. And the fact that her body was completely bang bangable, she bangable sure helped too. Her finger brushed my cheek, the cold digits dancing over my skin. I closed my eyes against the movement, savoring the tickle it brought. My eyes shot open as her lips brushed mine, closing tightly. as I forced my mouth harder against hers. She tasted incredibly sweet, like pure sugar. Could I get a cavity from this? Her teeth nibbled on my bottom lip before her tongue licked it slowly. A breathing moan escaped me before her tongue plunged into mine. Fuck it, the cavity was worth it. As she crawled on top of me, I noticed the sky had gone darker. Puck was going to be.
Okay, Chris, just let him go, let him go.
Why do you keep saying that? I'm not even talking.
Hey, oh, okay, sorry.
That's
Okay,
Michael.
just go.
That was Michael. You keep yelling at me. I'm not even doing
I'm
anything.
sorry. I'm sorry.
Is that the
just,
moment?
just,
Oh my god.
just,
Oh my god.
just go, Candy.
Alright. I'm trying to figure out. Okay. As she crawled on top of. Okay. Puck was going to be pissed. I haven't even realized how long we've been out here. Time flew by. My heart swelled pre- as she peppered, kissed down my jaw. Did mermaids have magical powers to make innocent bystanders? Yes, I'm referring to myself fall in love with them because I was going head over heels at the moment. I that sounded like Michael that time.
I'm pretty sure it was. Just everybody stop and let him
It
go.
was Michael. I'm looking at the script right now.
All right. I grinned as she bit down on my collarbone, wrapping my arms around her and flipping us over. Time to show her how a human does it. It has been 4 years since I last saw her. She had held my hand, promising me she would be back as soon as she could, and took off. Puck had been back on a weekly basis, saying she's doing well. She was almost done with college, blah blah. She had left and was allowed to be bitter. I gripped the tiny hand in mine, pulling her beside me, and as I kicked slowly through the water. Your major? Business manager, the familiar, sturdy, sultry voice brought back a frenzy of memories. I stayed in the shadow, treading the water slow as I listened. She's a smarty, graduated from Ohio State, I heard Puck say. I could picture the grin on his face. Where's Britt? I sighed and kicked forward, my head popping out of the water. Puck jumped 3 feet, clutching his heart. Do you honestly care where I am? I sneered, glaring at her. The tiny hand tugged on mine. I squeezed it, hoping she would be patient. Britt, her face was lanced with hurt. The shocking of her eyes was unbearable to look at. I need to talk to you. Rachel, can you take Puck to visit the others? They nodded. I rest my one arm on the rock, glaring at Santa and as Puck got his equipment on. She was sitting cross-legged, a few feet from the edge I was resting on. Her diving suit was folded down. She was watching me, a curious expression
Hold
on her
on,
face.
what?
Who's doing this?
Go, just go. Chill me
Yeah,
himself.
yeah. Alright. As soon as the bubbles disappeared from around Puck, she rushed over to me. I missed you, she muttered, touching my cheek. I forced myself to pull back, looking at her. You sure showed it. Brittany, she said, in an expressing tone to her voice. I did all that for you. I worked my ass off and pulled hundreds of all-nighters so I could graduate and come here. Me and Puck are opening up our own scuba diving business. Did he not tell you? I really let him talk about you. She frowned. You should have. I asked about you every day. I shrugged. I thought you didn't like me anymore. I tried to keep the tear at bay. One slipped and I didn't go unnoticed. She brushed it away with her thumb. Britt, I love you. Puck had this really Buck had this crazy idea of us living on a boathouse. I'm willing to do it if it means seeing you every day. If it wasn't in if I wasn't in love with her before, I definitely was now. She was my soulmate. I brushed my lips against hers, pulling back to see her bright eyes. I want you to meet someone. Confused act over her face. Who? I
Pussy.
tugged. No!
Please
No!
stop. Now I have to.
Pickle,
Please
stop.
stop.
No, stop. Alright, stop. I promise. I promise.
Please. Okay.
This is amazing.
I tugged on the hand I still
Hell.
I still held, waiting as the little bundle of joy burst out of the water. I tried to read Santana's reaction, first shock, then panic, then understanding. Hold on, I'm eating an Oreo.
Times for Oreos, Kennedy. Come on.
Times for Oreos.
There's no times.
Oreo.
Alright.
An Oreo time. God damn it.
Shut up! Alright. This is your daughter, I said slowly. Her eyes flicked to mine.
Aw.
I didn't think I went. Sand! I shot her a glare as the tiny brunette next to me giggled. Went where? Santana eyes widened. Nowhere. What's your name, sweetie? Sugar. A grin filled my daughter's face as she reached for her other mother's hand. Santana looked at me cautiously. I nodded and she picked her up. What? She breathed. I knew this would be a tough part. I watched as my soulmate took the two dark green fins instead of the expecting one. Mommy said I'm special. She grinned, touching Santana's face. Yes, you are, babe. She breathed, tucking her arms around Sugar as she hauled her into her lap. And set of panic eyes met mine, in which I shrugged. I have no idea why, but it hasn't affected her in any other way. The smaller brunette leaned up to kiss the Latina on the cheek. My body blazed with affection. Santana motioned me over, scooting forward a little herself. As I pushed myself up, she leaned against me. Sugar, huh? I grinned. Yeah, do you like it? I love it. You don't know how scarily accurate it is, she muttered before capturing my lips. What? That's it?
That's it?
What? That's how it ends.
That's it.
Kennedy,
That's
you
it.
know that you just.
Bravo.
Kennedy, let's give him a round of applause, everyone.
Look in chat.
Kennedy, guess what? Look in the chat, and guess what? You just read. You just read a lesbian Disney fanfic. We tricked you into reading one.
Oh, I thought he knew.
And guess what? This is going on YouTube. Good night, everyone.